I was standing at the bank counter when the young man behind the glass stopped smiling. He had been polite at first, professional routine, then he looked at the screen. His fingers froze over the keyboard. He blinked once, then again. And when he looked back at me, his eyes changed. That's when my stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said quietly. "Can you give me just a moment?" That was the moment I knew something was wrong. Not confusing wrong, not computer error wrong, but life-changing is wrong. I leaned closer to the counter, gripping my purse with both hands. My knees felt weak, but I told myself to stand straight. I was 82 years old. I had lived through loss, war, sickness, and grief. I could handle a bank mistake. Then he turned the screen slightly toward me, and I saw it. Balance, $0. Oh, no cents. No pending funds. Nothing. The retirement savings I had built over decades, gone. Drained. By the time I understood what I was looking at, my hands were shaking so badly, I had to hold the counter to keep from falling. "That's not possible," I whispered. Please check again." He did. And that was when the truth began to unravel. Stay with me because I'll tell you how I got to that moment, why the money was gone, and how the person who took it was the last one I ever suspected. If real stories about family, trust, and quiet betrayals matter to you, please subscribe to Grandama Moments. These are the stories no one prepares you for, especially later in life. I've lived in the same house for 41 years. It isn't large, it isn't fancy, but it is mine. Every corner of it tells the story of a careful life. The couch with the worn armrest where my husband used to sit, the kitchen table where homework was done and bills were paid, the hallway where height marks were once penciled into the wall. After my husband passed, I made myself a promise. I would never depend on anyone, not my children, not the government, not charity. I had watched too many older women lose their independence because they trusted the wrong people or planned too late. So I planned early. I worked. I was saved. I sacrificed. No cruises, no luxury cars, no unnecessary spending. That retirement account wasn't a cushion. It was my dignity. It meant I could buy my groceries without fear. It meant I could pay for medication without choosing between pills and food. It meant I could stay in my home. And for years, it did exactly that, until it didn't. My grandson was born when I was 58. His mother, my daughter, loved him deeply, but life didn't go gently with her. She struggled, relationships failed, jobs came and went. So I stepped in. Dramatically, not heroically, just consistently. School pickups when she worked late, packed lunches when mornings were rushed, a quiet presence when life felt unstable. He grew up in my house as much as his own. By the time he was a teenager, he felt less like a grandson and more like a son. He called me grandma, but he talked to me like I was his anchor. I helped with homework. I listened to his worries. I believed in him when others doubted. When he became an adult, I was proud. He was smart, confident, comfortable with technology. Everything I wasn't anymore. And that's where it began. It started with small offers. "Grandma, these banking apps are confusing." "Grandma, you shouldn't be doing this alone." "Grandma, let me help you so you don't get scammed." At first, I resisted. I had always handled my own affairs, but aging is a quiet thief. One day, the print was too small. Next, the passwords don't stick. Then suddenly, everything feels like it's moving faster than you can keep up. I didn't want it to be difficult. I didn't want to seem stubborn or proud. So I let him help. Just look, just explain, just make things easier. I never gave him control, at least not intentionally. The first time money went missing, I didn't notice it was a small amount. Then another, then another. I assumed it was automatic payments, medical bills, fees I didn't understand. When I asked, he laughed gently. "Grandma, everything's fine." And I believed him. Because when someone has been in your life since childhood, you don't imagine they're capable of hurting you like that. Months passed. I stopped checking my account as often. That was my biggest mistake. The day my card declined at the grocery store, I felt embarrassed more than worried. The cashier apologized. People waited behind me. I paid with cash and went straight home. I told myself it was a glitch still. Something nagged at me. The next morning, I drove to the bank. I didn't suspect betrayal. I suspected technology. I stood in line patiently, smiled politely, handed over my ID, and then the silence. The teller typed, stopped, typed again. Then came that look. Not confusion, pity. "I'm so sorry." he said gently. There are no funds available in this account. I laughed. A sharp, nervous sound. That can't be right. He turned the screen toward me, and there it was. 0. The room tilted. I felt heat rise up my chest and into my face. There must be a mistake, I said. I've had this account for years. He nodded. There have been multiple withdrawals over time. My heart pounded. Who authorized them? He hesitated, then he said the name. My grandson's name. The sound of it hit me harder than the number on the screen. I don't remember leaving the bank. I remember sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Shock locks, your tears behind your ribs. That night, I called him. He answered on the second ring. Cheerful. Hi, Grandma. I asked one question. Did you take my money? Silence. Then a sigh. Grandma, I was going to tell you. That sentence broke something inside me, because it meant he always knew. He said it was temporary. He said he needed help. He said he'd pay it back. He said I wouldn't even notice. At 8. Hung up. And that was the moment I realized something terrible. The money wasn't the worst thing. He took my sense of safety. He took my belief that family would never cross that line. And as I sat alone in my kitchen that night, staring at the walls I had worked so hard to protect, I knew this story wasn't over. Because what I did next would define the rest of my life. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid of being broke, but because something far more terrifying had happened. I no longer recognized my own family. I sat at the same kitchen table where I had once helped my grandson learn how to spell his name, the same table where he had eaten cereal before school, swinging his legs because his feet didn't touch the floor yet. Now that table felt cold, unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else's life. The house was quiet in a way it had never been before. Even after my husband died, the silence had felt heavy with memory. That night, it felt hollow. I replayed the phone call again and again. Grandma, I was going to tell you. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Just. Eventually, that word echoed louder than anything else. Eventually, as if my future was something he could borrow without permission. As if my age meant I had less right to security. By morning, my shock had turned into clarity. Painful clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't desperation. It was an entitlement. And that realization hurt more than the loss of money ever could. Went back to the bank the next day, not as a confused grandmother, but as a woman who needed answers. They printed the statements and spread them across the desk between us, page after page, dates and amounts stacked like evidence in a courtroom. Some withdrawals were small enough to hide, others were not. Rent payments, online transfers, electronics, cash, withdrawals made miles away from my home. Each line felt like a quiet accusation. I asked how long it had been happening. Almost a year, the banker said gently. A year. That meant holidays, birthdays, family dinners. All while he smiled at me, all while he hugged me goodbye. Asked the hardest question next. Can I get it back? The banker didn't rush his answer. At this point, he said carefully, recovery would require legal action. Legal action. Against my own grandson. The word settled in my chest like a stone. I drove home slowly, every red light giving me too much time to think. When I pulled into my driveway, I just sat there. This house has been my safe place. Now it felt exposed. That afternoon, he came by without calling. I knew it was him before I opened the door. I could always tell by the way he knocked. Confident, familiar, careless. He looked nervous, not ashamed. Nervous, double quotes. Grandma, he said softly, stepping inside like nothing had changed. I noticed then that he didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask what the bank said. He just started explaining. Life was hard. Money was tight. He was going to pay it back. I didn't think you'd even notice, he said. That sentence cut deeper than anything else, because it revealed what he truly thought of me, not as a person, but as an old woman whose awareness had an expiration date. I asked him to sit down. He tried to justify himself. You're old, he said. You don't need all that money. That was the moment something inside me shifted permanently. Because when someone decides what you need, they stop seeing you as human. I told him to leave. He looked shocked, almost offended, as if I had betrayed him. After he left, I locked the door. And for the first time in my life, I locked it against my family. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Filing a report felt humiliating. Saying the words out loud, "My grandson stole from me," felt unreal. Strangers were kinder than I expected. They listened, they explained, they helped me secure what little I had left. Every password was changed. Every account is locked down. I learned things I should have learned earlier. Not because I was foolish, but because I trusted love too much. Some of the money was recovered, not all, but enough that I could breathe again, enough that I could stay in my home. My grandson stopped calling. The silence hurt more than the theft. But here is the truth no one tells you. Peace sometimes requires distance. I still love him, but I no longer confuse love with access. At 82, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Family does not get unlimited permission to your future. Trust must be earned, and boundaries are not cruel, they are surviving. If you're watching this and thinking, "This could never happen to me," I thought that too, until it did. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Grandama Moments, and tell me in the comments, have you ever had to protect yourself from someone you loved? Your voice matters here.